The Miz is your new WWE champion. Elimination Chamber 2021, at least I think it's 2021. Could be 2011. Not sure how long I've been asleep. But The Miz is WWE champion. I'll repeat that one more time. The Miz, Mike Mizanin, is WWE champion. Let's let that register for a second. It's 2 months away from WrestleMania. Why not? Holy crap. Well, that happened. How y'all doing, by the way? Good mic work. Back at you with a really fun Elimination Chamber 2021 review. The show is in the books. You knew they were planning for something big. All the signs were pointing to that because the pay-per-view kind of sucked tonight. Like, they didn't do a whole lot. There was nothing. There wasn't a lot of thought, it felt like, going into a lot of these matches. Some of them were just scrapped altogether, like Lacey Evans and Asuka. Keith Lee was out, inserted with John Morrison, and it seemed like all of their creative eggs were in one basket. They were really, I guess, kind of like putting all of their idea and thought into that final finish of the main event. We knew they were going to do something, when the pod plexiglass came off and all of that, but all night long it gave you that feeling. All night long it felt like, well, the SmackDown Chamber was kind of underwhelming in terms of how that went. Any sort of big surprises that we're going to get is probably going to be saved for the main event. All of the other matches were, even though we saw a title change, were matches that I think could have just been taking place on Raw, wouldn't have been no difference, or SmackDown for that matter. And it felt like they were saving up for something big in the end, for the Raw match to go on last, when the drama felt like it was with the SmackDown match, with Roman facing the winner immediately after and the whole Edge thing hanging over his head. That was what I predicted yesterday was going to be the show closer. But instead, when they made that match open the show, my immediate thought was Drew McIntyre and his title run. I said, that makes me nervous, because if they are going to do some sort of a big title switch, if they are going to do a surprise, a swerve, anything like that, that's going to come at the end of the show, and that's going to be the last thing you see, especially with Raw being tomorrow night. I was very concerned once the SmackDown match came up first, and we, the show just went off the air a few minutes ago. We all saw it. We all watched it, and they teased it prior to the main event, which I was excited about at first, but maybe excited for a different reason, when they showed MVP speaking to The Miz backstage, and The Miz is kind of like rubbing his briefcase, and I'm like, oh shit, is he going to sell MVP the briefcase to give it to Lashley, who dropped the U.S. title tonight? Because he's, you guys have known I've been singing his praises for months. So for him to get a crack at Drew, I'm more than in favor of that. I just kind of thought it would happen later, maybe not right now. And I kind of thought maybe they were going to give the briefcase to Lashley or something. But instead, it appears that MVP struck a deal with The Miz, say, hey, Lashley will go out there and beat the shit out of Drew for you, and then you can cash in, and then I'm sure MVP is going to want something in return, which I'm assuming is a title match, maybe against The Miz. Lashley and MVP both probably think that facing Miz will be a lot easier than facing Drew. But we got Fastlane on the horizon now. I would think, if I'm a sane, logical man here, that The Miz will be coughing that belt up prior to WrestleMania, maybe next month at Fastlane. If he goes into WrestleMania as WWE champion, I will shit a live baby. I cannot imagine a scenario where that happens, but it very well might at this point. So anyway, at least we were surprised. I mean, not even really surprised. You just knew something was going to happen. But I think I'm surprised that WWE actually had the balls to put the title on The Miz this close to WrestleMania, when I don't think he should be even in the same building as that championship belt. But here he is holding up the title again. And, for those of you who've been following this channel and my podcast throughout the years, it was only a couple of years ago. I'd say it was 2017, well, maybe 4 now, where I started turning the corner on The Miz. I'd say 16, 17, somewhere in there. I'm like, you know what? Maybe that 2011 run was a little bit too early for him, or 2010, or whatever fucking year it was. Maybe that was a little too early for him, but he's proved himself now. He's amazing on the mic. He carries himself very well. His matches are not terrible, and he can go in there. He had great feuds with a lot of guys like Ziggler and others, and I was like, if there's ever a time to give Miz a second chance and see if he can do better, because nobody was accepting him as champion back in 2011. If they do it now, I think now he's kind of earned that right. But now that, that ship has sailed too. I've turned the corner on The Miz again, where I don't really need to see him. I don't give a shit about The Miz. So here he sits, WWE champion again, and I think with The Miz, not that he hasn't had poor parts of his career where I feel like he's deserved a shot at the title. It feels like both times they've given him the belt now, their timing has been off. But we'll see. If the payoff is greater, the timing will turn out to be right on. But it feels like, based on what we saw that, the Miz is kind of a weak champion right now. He's been a complete pussy on TV in every segment, that he does. So I don't know how this is going to work. We'll see. And Miz is your champion now. And I'm just going to, take a minute just to digest this, process this information. We all have to do that together. And we eventually will get into the actual match-by-match results here and all that good stuff in terms of the pay-per-view. But it was, it was all set up to bring us that moment because everything else on the show was relatively lackluster, maybe underwhelming. It was a very short show. They kicked off, the main event started an hour and a half after the pay-per-view started. So, for me in my West Coast time at 5:30, a little bit after 5:30, the main event started. And I'm like, Jesus, this is going to be a fast pay-per-view. I had this live stream scheduled for 7:30. So, here we are just a couple of minutes before 7 o'clock and we're finally up here. But it was a quick one. So very quick one, 2.5 hours, something like that. So they were just setting all that up and they didn't really do much else with the rest of the show, other than maybe that U.S. title match. But even the SmackDown Chamber match just was what it was. I think tonight was a really good example of why I hate these gimmick pay-per-views, because you didn't need these chambers. They were just there to be there. And I've said this, I've preached this, exhaustingly over the years, but the same thing with the Hell in a Cell. I absolutely can't stand it when that pay-per-view is on the pay-per-view schedule because it's just there in your way. Those matches, these type of matches that are so unique, in my opinion, should be reserved for special occasions or when a feud or an issue or storyline angle warrants it. Not just randomly on the pay-per-view calendar 8 months from now. Oh, we better have a Hell in a Cell worthy feud by the time we get to then. It just fucks your booking up. So this is another situation where nothing was really that necessary here in terms of a chamber. The chamber didn't serve a purpose in terms of furthering an angle in any way. Daniel Bryan came out of the winner and lost and just a whatever type of deal. And then even with the chamber in the final match, when Omos ripped off the plexiglass for AJ, which that was silly enough in its own right. And I mean, AJ did not come off very smart there, especially when he competed in a match last Monday to earn the right to go into the chamber last. And then he does something to get in the match early. What kind of fucking backwards ass strategy is that, AJ? I guess in his universe where the earth is flat, anything is possible. But, with everything that they did there, they didn't even use the chamber in that way. When you saw the plexiglass come off, we were all calling it on Twitter. Everybody was up. Somebody's going to come out and enter. Now there's a hole. There's an opening in the cage and somebody can get in there and maybe either cash in or beat the shit out of Drew or something. But instead, they did the whole match and they waited and you knew it. They were telegraphing the shit out of it. After the match, they start raising the chamber. When did they do that? Have they ever raised the chamber after a chamber match? They might have. I could be wrong, but I don't remember that happening. So as soon as they're raising the chamber, I'm like, oh, that gives somebody an opportunity to run in, sneak attack Drew. And it turned out to be Bobby Lashley, who just beat the shit out of him, put him in the hurt lock, posted him on the outside of the ring, kicked his ass in the ring, and that allowed the Miz to come right out and cash in. Now, Drew kicked out of the first finale, skull-crushing finale, but not the second one. And Miz closes the show as your WWE champion. Wow. Holy crap. Well, we're just going to kind of sit here and hang for a bit because this is a very short card. It's not going to take us long to blow through these predictions, so we will shoot through the shit here. I'll answer some super chats and talk to everybody in the chat right now, see what you guys think about this abomination. I mean, look at it. I know this is not, you're not going to like hearing this coming from me, but look at it from WWE's perspective. The ratings have sucked. And I know on the surface, we're like, well, Jesus, Greg, if the ratings suck, why the fuck do you think they're getting any better with The Miz? I'm just saying maybe the surprise factor will at least do enough to make us all tune in tomorrow for Raw and maybe boost their rating a little bit. And if the plan is just to take the belt back off The Miz prior to WrestleMania, then I guess in the grand scheme of things, no harm done. Because that likely seems like the option at this point. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, because it feels like The Miz and Morrison are probably going to do something with Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny slapped the fucking shit out of The Miz on the pay-per-view tonight. I felt it. And Bad Bunny was on SNL last night performing with the 24/7 title and then flies down to Florida to work a pay-per-view. What a workhorse. No days off for that guy. So, you feel like that's still got to happen with Miz, Morrison, Damian Priest, and Bad Bunny. So maybe this is just a way to two birds, one stone. It gets the briefcase out of the way, and it gives The Miz, even though it's only a month, another run with the title to add to his legacy. Here you go. Here's a month with the belt. Have fun. You're losing it at Fastlane on the first pay-per-view on Peacock, by the way, which might work out. And then he loses and then goes on to WrestleMania to do his Bad Bunny thing. And, if he is WWE champion, for a little while, they could use that. That could help in part of the build and part of the cross promotion with Bad Bunny. Oh, he's feuding with the WWE champion. You can do a whole bunch of promotional spots all over and talk shows, and they can show up on fucking Conan or something and do some stuff. And then get the belt off the Miz, put it back with Drew or whatever. And then he, I guess, can go to WrestleMania now to face Lashley. Certainly doesn't look like it's going to be Sheamus. And I doubt it's going to be Keith Lee either at this point. So it looks like maybe Lashley and Drew was what they're setting up for WrestleMania. What else are you going to do? Lashley, Drew, and The Miz in a triple threat? Or maybe, more is going to come of that conversation. We'll hear about tomorrow, maybe with MVP and The Miz. Maybe there was some agreement done there. Clearly there was. So maybe Miz has agreed to give Lashley a title shot. I don't know why The Miz would do that if he's got a death wish. So I suppose maybe Lashley could take the title from The Miz and go into Mania as champion. But I don't know. I don't know how they're going to. Either way, sounds like there's more bad ways this can end than good. Because if you give Lashley the title and then he drops it to Drew at WrestleMania, now Miz has got a 1 month run followed by Lashley's 1 month run, followed by Drew winning it back, maybe giving him that moment he missed out on last year at Raymond James. But otherwise, you have Drew win it back and then drop it to Lashley. So then you're hot potato in this belt again. So I don't know what they have planned. I don't know. Because we know what the SmackDown match is. It's Edge and Roman, which we all but knew that on Friday night. That pretty much sealed it on SmackDown this week. But it was made official tonight. So that means something's got to happen. I don't know. Certainly Bad Bunny is not going to be involved in the title match, is he? They're not going to do some shit where he's like the Muhammad Ali of WrestleMania 1 or something, are they? I don't know. But at this point, based on what they probably have planned here, because I don't see Brock or anybody like that coming in last minute. I really don't see that. So based on what they probably are setting the table up here for with Drew, Lashley, and Miz, or some combination of the two of the three, then that probably means Edge and Roman will be your main event at WrestleMania, and that's awesome. It should be. So, I don't know. Thinking out loud here. Let me know your thoughts on this. What you think might be going on. Miz and Morrison at WrestleMania. That could be, especially if Morrison costs the Miz the title. He's already cost him a couple of things. That could happen. We'll see. There could be a lot of ways I can go. I'm going to scroll all the way back to the top and just knock out some of these super chats that were coming in right off the bat here, and then we'll just continue to chat, and then eventually we'll start getting into the match-by-match results here and maybe dig a little bit deeper into our ideas for WrestleMania now with this shock finish of the Elimination Chamber. If you are just joining us, please smash that thumbs up and subscribe if you have not yet already. We're up here every Monday night for Raw. We're up here after every pay-per-view for reviews. I'm up here every Saturday for a podcast. We're doing watch-alongs and all that good stuff. 1 week from tonight, we're going to hang out and watch WrestleMania 17 together. So put that on your calendar and join me in a week. All the way back to the beginning, I want to shout out Stone Cold with the $2. Appreciate it. I wanted Lashley versus Drew for the belt, not that. Well, we might still get that. So I know I'm curious. I haven't really been on Twitter. I'm sure we're all freaking out, right? Nobody's like saying, "Yay, this is a good idea," right? So I'm sure that the feedback is not good, but if you just think it through, that's been my motto on this channel ever since I started in 2011. As I just think it through before you have a knee-jerk, crazy, psychotic reaction. Just think, well, what's the payoff? If it's good, if it's worth it, it might be worth it. And like I said, if Miz just holds the belt for a little while, maybe it helps out with this promotion with Bad Bunny a little bit, drops it at Fastlane, and you do Drew at Lashley at WrestleMania. Is there really any harm done there? Especially if it sparks a rating and does some other good business for WWE here or there. That might be their motivation here. And I think all the juicy good stuff for WrestleMania is going to come out of Roman and Edge. But if they are building to Lashley and Drew here, then that's fantastic. And that's I'm cool with that. We got, who's next? Shout out George Morris. Good to see you, man. Appreciate the $5. Hey, Greg, how are you doing? Elimination Chamber 0 out of 10 for me. Not a good night. My cats threw up on my bed. I'm watching everything. Be safe. Well, I appreciate that, George Morris. Sorry about your terrible day. My boys are just relaxing and chilling. I did not think the pay-per-view was that great, but I'm going to give it a 0 out of 10, and I thought it was a pretty shock ending. But we didn't do letter or number grades. Feel free to hit me with those, too. I'm guessing C-, D, shit like that. Isaiah B., appreciate the 5 as well. All I see, Miz as a plan from MVP to get an easier opponent for Lashley, and Lashley wins WWE title at Fastlane, maybe Brock versus Bobby WrestleMania. Yeah, but where does that leave Drew? I see your point with, and we just talked about that, how maybe Lashley's trying to target an easier opponent, or, and actually he just tweeted out, I just 24 minutes ago, Bobby Lashley just tweets out the word business, hashtag WWE Chamber. So clearly there has been a business arrangement between MVP, Lashley, and The Miz. We'll have to find out what the terms of that arrangement are and if it will wind up with Lashley heading towards a bigger prize now that they have gotten that United States title off of him, which is what I was hoping. We talked about that yesterday in the predictions. I predicted that match wrong. I wanted Lashley to retain and hang on, but I said if you are going to take the title off of him, do it in a situation where he won't have to be pinned. And he's been very protected for the past 6 or 8 months. So they continued that tonight, and I thought that was smart booking. Chris, what's up, brother? Thanks for the $5. So Edge is in that title match at WrestleMania, and Miz is WWE champ. The same, exactly. I thought about that too. The same 2 guys who were champions at WrestleMania 27 in 2011. Does WWE not see their issue? Well, it's up for debate whether or not Miz will be champion going into WrestleMania. Edge might be champion at the end of WrestleMania. But the way it's set up, I'd be really surprised if Miz is champion going into Mania. But who the fuck knows, man? Who knows with these guys? Nikita, appreciate the $2. Miz loses the title tomorrow. Cheers. That could be. We've seen one title change on Raw already in the last couple of months. That would be 2 very quickly. And I'd be surprised if, I don't know how long it's been since they did 2 back-to-back like that close together. But if he did, then what was the point of doing it? Let's say Miz loses the title tomorrow to Drew. Okay. But why? Why'd they even give it to him then? I mean, to set up maybe Drew and Lashley, I suppose. But, I think there's a really good chance that Drew is going to come out of this thing as a 3-time WWE champion. Deshaun Robinson, thanks for the 5. Good to see you as well, too. Don't worry, Miz won't be champ going into Mania. It will be Sheamus versus Lashley versus McIntyre for the title, and Miz versus Morrison versus Bunny and Priest. So you've got Sheamus lumped in there, huh? Who eliminated him tonight? I remember his elimination kind of caught me off guard. Oh, forearm. Yeah, it was AJ. AJ eliminated Sheamus tonight with a phenomenal forearm, So I kind of thought that almost killed that issue, but I do still think that Drew owes him a Claymore and a pinfall victory at some point, so he could get involved there, or, he could be involved in the Fastlane stuff. Not sure with Sheamus, but a triple threat, I suppose, is possible. And yeah, I agree. It feels like we're still going to get Bunny and The Miz. They even continued that issue tonight on Elimination Chamber pay-per-view when, Bad Bunny had that 24/7 title. So now tomorrow, there's going to be a segment with Bad Bunny with his title and The Miz with his title. I can guarantee it. So that ought to be fun. Thanks for 2 more from you, Deshaun Robinson. Bad Bunny will cost The Miz the title at Fastlane. Man, I like Bad Bunny. Of course, I've kind of had his back ever since the fans went ape shit over him. So after that, I'm kind of like, all right, let's, at least the guy loves wrestling. He's working his ass off. He had his championship belt during his SNL performance last night. That's a fan right there. So I'm cool with him being there, getting involved in something this serious, though, getting Bad Bunny in the middle of Drew and Lashley and stuff. I don't know, but that certainly would give the reason to have the Miz and the Bad Bunny, match or tag team match or whatever they're going to do at WrestleMania. That will certainly add to that. We'll see. Oh, here's some letter grades I'm seeing. C, A, C, B minus, D, C, B, C plus, B, B minus, C. All right, all sorts of. Yeah, I think it's getting an average grade because of probably that shock ending there. What's up, Joshua Aparicio? Appreciate the $2. Bad Bunny was on the show. 10 out of 10. There you go. I agree. All right, I think that caught up all the supers. Oh no, there's one from Barry. Barry with the $2. I had no desire to watch this pay-per-view. Yeah, well, you didn't miss much until, the very end. So, all right, cool. That got all those caught up. Oh, God, don't tell me that. I'm seeing no Betty White stuff trending, so please don't get that started. I'm seeing a couple of those now. Oh, no. Are we going to learn about Betty White's death in the middle of a show? Oh, man. Well, now y'all got to make me Google it or search it. She's not dead. Unless it's literally brand new. Yeah, I think she's still alive. I think we're all good. Anywho. Yeah, and I had Lewis, you're right. I mean, having a champion like that, I mean, Miz is great at just being obnoxious. And he's great at being a guy to dangle the belt in front of everybody's face and just be such an annoying douche with it. And that's what made him a great briefcase holder. So, I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure about WWE's motivation in terms of, putting the title on him and how long they plan on him holding it, and what their plans are for WrestleMania now on the Raw side. There's a lot to be answered. So things are kind of a mess right now. What's up, Deshaun? Thanks for 5 more. 11 years ago today, Shawn Michaels cost The Undertaker the title in the Elimination Chamber to Chris Jericho. I remember that. That was awesome. Yeah, Maka International. Appreciate the 2 from you. What about Orton losing early? No Fiend. I thought for sure. Maybe not necessarily the Fiend. We didn't have to see the Fiend. I still think that might be a better thing to save for like a closing segment on Raw or something leading up to Mania. But I thought for sure we'd see shenanigans. I thought for sure we would see lights go out, somebody, something fucking with Randy's pod. But he wasn't even in a pod. He started the match with, I think, Jeff Hardy. So that was kind of shocking. So yeah, we'll talk about all those weird things they did tonight that I wasn't expecting. But anyway, now that we've been kind of going through all that and shooting the shit, why don't we actually get into the results of the show? And we'll start things off with the kickoff show, because earlier on in the day it was announced that Keith Lee has been removed from the United States title match because he's not medically cleared. No word on what was going on with Keith Lee there. I don't know if it's COVID related or not. We do know that I believe him and Mia Yim both had it, or at least she did. So not sure if it's a quarantine issue or if it's an injury or whatever, but in kayfabe, they're playing it off like he was injured at the hands of Bobby Lashley last week on Raw when Lashley beat the hell out of everybody. So that's what they're saying on TV, but Keith Lee, at the end of the day, had to be removed from the match, so they needed to replace him with somebody else. So they did a fatal 4-way on the kickoff: Ricochet versus Ali versus Morrison versus Elias. Now, Morrison's name had come up. As a matter of fact, I think Fightful Select earlier on in the day when the Keith Lee news was announced had said that Morrison was going to be the guy to replace him. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. I thought they were just going to announce it. He's kind of a weird choice. But instead, they put him in the Fatal 4-Way, made him earn that spot, and he actually did wind up winning and pinning Ali there. And that surprised me, because I'm like, Jesus, Ali, with all this Elimination Chamber history, I thought he'd be in a little bit more of an important match than just the kickoff show. And he didn't even show up later to attack Kofi or anything. They didn't do anything fun in that Raw match that we were asking for. They saved it all for the end, which I guess that's why, because you can't have the Fiend come back and Ali do some crazy shit all in the same match as Miz cashing in. So, at the end of the day, I guess it makes sense. But, I would have liked to see a little bit more long-term booking there with Ali and just do something interesting with the chamber here. But anyway, Morrison gets in the United States title match, which is an odd choice, but he'll be in there later on. The main show starts with the SmackDown Chamber match. Now, yesterday in the predictions, I was very confidently talking about, well, duh, obviously the SmackDown Chamber match is going to be the main event because there's more, drama involved there. I think we got a lot of wild cards. We've seen SmackDown pushing some different guys lately. Nakamura with a couple of really good outings on TV. Cesaro appears to be getting a little nudge finally again after all these years. And of course, Daniel Bryan has got a story there too. And Kevin Owens and Roman have just been off of their heels. So we knew that whichever one of those guys won, setting up the Roman match was going to be interesting to see Roman probably beat him. And then, as I called yesterday in the predictions, I said the show was going to end with Roman beating the winner of the Chamber, and then Edge giving him his receipt from Friday when Roman speared Edge. Edge will hit Roman with a spear. He'll get on the mic and say, "I choose you." He basically did all of that except get on the mic. He didn't do that. It was actually really cool the way it came off. But we'll talk about that here in a minute. So anyway, SmackDown Chamber match was Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn versus Baron Corbin versus Daniel Bryan versus Cesaro versus Jey Uso. The winner will face Roman Reigns immediately after the match. Daniel Bryan and Cesaro start this thing out. Corbin came out first, and then Sami Zayn, I believe, after him. Sami Zayn was hilarious inside the pod when he was waiting to get in. They were fighting over by him, and he's like, "Get him away from my pod." Nobody could come anywhere near his pod. And he, of course, he had his True Hollywood Story crew with him. The referee sends those guys away, and he's all pissed off. So he's making a huge stink in that pod, which is why Sami is awesome. Baron Corbin wound up tapping out, getting eliminated to the sharpshooter by Cesaro. Kevin Owens came out of the pod next, and then Uso came out last after that. Kevin Owens would pin Sami Zayn after a stunner, and Sami stumbled his ass out of the cage. This was a brilliant spot and coming up next, and I cannot believe we've never seen this before. Not that, to my recollection anyway. We've never seen this in a Hell in a Cell, Elimination Chamber, or a cage match. I guess as they are getting Sami out of the chamber and they start to close the door, Jey Uso puts Kevin Owens' arm in the cage door, and they close the door on the arm. They don't slam it on the arm. Like, they actually close his door on the arm, and his arm is just stuck in there. Now, obviously, it's probably gimmicked, and there's a way for his arm to fit in there without crushing it or whatever. But I was like, well, there's something. Anytime that at this point in my life, after 40 years of watching wrestling, if I see something I've never seen before, I'm like, I can't believe they've ever thought about that before. We've seen plenty of guys' heads get slammed in the doors and arms get slammed in the doors and legs, but never like the arm stuck in there. And correct, if you know of an example of, and you've seen a match where that's happened, let me know. But I thought that was a really innovative spot there, and it did enough damage to Owens where it put him out, because right after that, he was selling the arm so hard, Jey Uso was able to hit him with his top rope splash and pin him and eliminate Kevin Owens. So Owens was one of the odds-on favorite. Many fans thought he was just going to win this and kind of maybe clean up the bad finish that we had at the Royal Rumble between him and Roman Reigns and maybe give us a little bit better closure on that. That's kind of what I thought was going to happen too. But I, in the end, wound up going with Cesaro, but I wouldn't be right in that either, because after that, Uso eliminated Cesaro after a splash. So he eliminated both guys, Cesaro and Kevin Owens. And then right after he eliminates Cesaro, he goes up and splashes Daniel Bryan, and Bryan barely kicks out. So Uso almost went on a huge run there. And that kick out in particular, that was a perfect example of where the crowd was going to be sorely missed, because I thought that was over. I thought Jey was just going off. And when Bryan kicked out of that, it just was such a dead, flat reaction because there's nobody there. And I know they have the piped-in crowd noise, but that was one spot in particular that I know the crowd would have marked out for, with that near-fall kick-out by Daniel Bryan. After that, Jey Uso goes up to the top of the pod to try to hit another splash onto Daniel Bryan, but Daniel Bryan gets his knees up, and that hurts Jey. Stuns him a bit. Daniel Bryan's able to recover, get to his feet, hit Jey Uso with the running knees, and pin him for the win. So Daniel Bryan wins the Elimination Chamber match. That's awesome. He was one of the guys I wanted. In the end, I think I picked Cesaro yesterday, but Daniel Bryan was another guy. We knew it was going to be Owens, Cesaro, or Bryan, because each of them has a story to tell in some way. And, and I think this was the right call. And Bryan, this was great too, the way they set this up, because Bryan's just now been in this grueling match. Roman Reigns comes out, and you know that this can't really be that much of a match. And Roman, of course, is taking his time, get into the ring. He's not in any hurry. He's letting Daniel Bryan recover a little bit. And then finally, when he gets in the ring and he goes for the spear, immediately Daniel Bryan counters into the yes lock. And just a brutal, beautiful move. And he had that thing locked on Roman in the middle of the ring. And for a split second, I was like, oh shit, did he fail a wellness test or something? Has he violated something? I thought they were going to make him tap out and lose the title right there. But in the end, he was able to recover and just pummels Bryan, just hammers him into the mat, beats him up a little bit more, eventually locks in the guillotine choke after just a couple of minutes. And Daniel Bryan passes out. Referee calls for the bell, and Roman Reigns retains the title just like we figured he would. And after the match, of course, Edge jumps in the ring, nails Roman Reigns with a spear, and immediately gets up very quickly and just, boom, points right to the WrestleMania sign. I'm not a fan of WrestleMania sign pointing, but this one was done well. I think the pyro overdid it a bit, but when Edge, that's all he really needed to say, is to hit Roman with that spear and not do some dramatic pose or, point to the sign. Just hit him with a spear and boom, point right to the sign. I liked that. I kind of wish they would have just kept it at that and not done the big dramatic pyro effect or whatever. But that match is now official. They even showed a graphic of it later on in the show. Roman Reigns taking on Edge now, defending the Universal title against Edge at WrestleMania. That will, in all likelihood, be your very last match on the two-day event, and that's going to be some extremely fun build. I talked about this yesterday in the podcast and the predictions that I really liked Edge's demeanor and everything in the Roman promo on SmackDown. I like the fact that Edge does not appear to be intimidated at all by Roman Reigns, and he's not going to let somebody like Roman intimidate a veteran of his stature who's been around and who's seen everything and has seen some of the most intimidating people ever in wrestling. And he's, not about to be shaken. He's been through worse. He's been through everything in wrestling. So I kind of like that stance that he's taking, to where he's not backing down and he's actually saying, look, I'll expose you, bitch. You're already cracking under the pressure and I haven't even applied any yet. So what's going to happen when I really start coming after you? I like that, Edge putting it to Roman like that. So I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be a fun build. I think it's going to be a really fun build. And I think there's going to be some really, really good promos cut by all three guys, especially if you include Paul Heyman into that. And at some point, you're going to have that Heyman Edge moment that will probably happen sooner rather than later, because one promo was going to be Heyman Edge heavy. I think it has to, because they go way back from the SmackDown, the SmackDown 6 crew from back in the day and SmackDown's heyday and stuff. So they've got a history and there's a lot to say there, and I'm excited for it. So the right call was made there. That's the match we absolutely need to see. Then, like I said, WWE basically let us know that on SmackDown on Friday that's going to be it. So anyway, I'm ready for that. After that, that was when we did the backstage spot with Bad Bunny. He's back there with the 24/7 title. He's about to be interviewed. Miz interrupts him, talks some shit, and Bad Bunny just slaps the hell out of the Miz. The taste flew right out of the Miz's mouth, hit me in the face. The yellow flew off his teeth, splashed on my desk. I mean, it was that bad. It was awesome. What a slap right to the Miz's face. After that, we get the United States title match. Bobby Lashley defending against Riddle and John Morrison, who is replacing the medically uncleared Keith Lee. And this match was pretty good. I mean, it really was. I was watching very closely because I was very nervous for Lashley. I was kind of torn. You guys know how I've been singing his praises and everything, but I'm like, all right, if they're going to take the title off of him, this is probably how you do it. And because there's no disqualification in a triple threat, Riddle, MVP is injured, by the way. He's kind of hobbling out there with a crutch. So Riddle takes his crutch away from MVP, gets in the ring, and just wears out Bobby Lashley with it, hitting him 2 times really hard, breaking the crutch over his back. Lashley spills to the outside, allowing Riddle to hit Morrison with his, what is it called? The bro slam or whatever his finisher is, and hits that on Morrison for the win and wins the United States title, grabs the title and scurries away up the ramp, and brand new United States champion in Matt Riddle. So that, I guess, is acceptable to me. And that's what I talked about yesterday. If it was up to me, Lashley's never dropping that belt. If it's up to me, Lashley's getting a WWE title shot as champion, because I think that really helps, elevate the U.S. title too, when it can be on one of your top guys. And Lashley's just done a phenomenal job with it. But he's been super protected in WWE a lot. He has not been beaten, other than DQs and shit, or maybe a quick roll-up or two I think he's had. Maybe not even that. He's been very well protected over the last 6 months, which is the way he always should have been portrayed and booked and protected. So him losing in any way is not something I wanted to see. But if WWE has other plans for him greater than the United States title, then yeah, you got to take the belt off of him. So I suppose this is the way to do it. That was smart booking, even though, like I said, if it was up to me, Lashley would just still kill people. But I can live with this. Riddle getting the title, not very surprising. He just re-signed his deal there. And, it would only be a matter of time before he tasted gold anyway. And we'll see now. He probably, I guess, is going to continue things with Keith Lee, I suppose. And Lashley seems to be moving on. Yeah, I can't see now with what Lashley did with The Miz and everything that he's going to come out tomorrow and be demanding a U.S. title shot or anything. I think he might just be refocusing his efforts somewhere else, and that'll leave Riddle to go into WrestleMania now to probably have a match against somebody, assuming that could be Keith Lee. But again, that's a match we've seen on Raw a couple of times in recent months. So the fate of the U.S. title is a little bit up in the air as far as I'm concerned. I know he probably is doing a movie or something like that, but it would be fun if we could see John Cena come back. I just think an interaction in the ring between John Cena and Matt Riddle would be fucking hysterical. And that would just be a fun random match. Riddle and John Cena for the U.S. title. I know it's crazy, but can't you see them in the ring together just doing something weird? I can. After that, we cut backstage to Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. They're doing their little pre-match deal at Gorilla. Reginald shows up, and he's kind of, I guess they're playing up on this thing on TV where he's got a crush on Sasha Banks, or he's obsessed with her or something like that. So he shows up and he tells them that he's going to put one of his best bottles of champagne on ice, which you know is bullshit. He's going to put one of his best bottles of Cook's on ice that you can pick up for $4.99 at your local 7-Eleven. So that'll be on ice waiting for the two ladies, apparently, when they win the tag team titles. And I had predicted that Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler would win here because I feel like the deal where two wrestlers who are feuding or about to feud winning the tag team titles together has been done completely to death since 1997. I just don't need to see that for anybody. And I didn't really want to see that for Bianca or Sasha. I'd rather have Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler lose the titles to an actual team. Now, if you had Bianca and Sasha win here and go down to NXT or something, that would be fun. Don't get me wrong. But I just think, just slapping two people together, giving them the titles randomly when there's other, teams they could be working with better, especially, across the other brands, especially in NXT. We saw the thing on Wednesday with Shayna, Nia, and Raquel and Dakota. So it would have been fun to see Bianca and Sasha against those ladies too. But I want to see them go to NXT and just have some more matches. This was just not a title switch I needed to see or wanted to see, but was worried it might happen. But the Reginald stuff did play in. Reginald showed up out there, and he had a big, expensive bottle of $4 Cooks in his hand, and he's offering it to Sasha Banks to use as a weapon. And she seems a little bit confused about his presence out there, and that's enough to distract her and allows Nia Jax to hit the Samoan drop on her and beat her. So Reginald kind of screwed up there and cost Bianca and Sasha the match. They're both pissed after the match, giving him a whole bunch of shit, and then we go into I don't know, an advertisement or commercial or whatnot. So Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler did retain there. That made me happy, and that was the right call as well. And that's when we got the cut backstage to see MVP talking to The Miz. We saw that, and Miz is rubbing ever so gently his briefcase. I hope he oiled it up first. He probably did, the sick freak. So he's rubbing his briefcase as MVP's talking to him and pitching to him some idea. And everybody was calling. I said on Twitter, I'm like, okay, what's he going to do? Sell it to Lashley? Lashley's involved in this somehow. We know that 100%. So they were setting the stage for that there clearly. And now we go to the match itself. Of course, this is Drew McIntyre defending the WWE title in the Elimination Chamber against Kofi Kingston and Randy Orton and Jeff Hardy and AJ Styles and Sheamus, correct? And we had Randy Orton, or Drew McIntyre came out first, and then I think two other guys came out, or one other guy came out after him, and then Kofi makes his entrance. And Kofi's entrance was a big one because after Ali had lost earlier in the night and yesterday in the predictions, I'm like, one of the possibilities we could see is Ali coming in there and attacking Kofi Kingston and getting in the chamber, kind of a full circle from when Kofi took his spot in the chamber a few years back. But even though I kind of wanted to see that, it wouldn't have made much sense in a match like this where the title is now being defended, because at the end of the day, Ali's not winning this thing anyway, so there's really no point to do that. But what I had thought they were going to do a couple weeks back before these were announced is that the Elimination Chamber would determine Drew's challenger at WrestleMania. And I thought that would be a perfect opportunity to get Ali in there and potentially even win it. But they went in a completely different direction. But at least props to WWE for at least knowing that the fans were kind of hoping for something there, because when Kofi was making his entrance, the first thing I was doing is checking behind him to see if anybody was going to run out and attack him. And as he got about 3/4 of the way down the ramp, did you notice he turned his head? He looked behind him. So it was like he was checking. So that was cool that WWE, or at least Kofi, knew enough to say, people are after me. I need to watch out for Ali. And he kind of had his head on a swivel. He was ready for it. Basically, it never happened. But I did like that little touch to where, because I really hate it when people who are in a bitter, vicious feud are so oblivious to their surroundings, when they know they can be sneak attacked by the dirty heel they're feuding with at any time. And it always annoys me how dumb baby faces can be. And Kofi had some street smarts there. So it was cool to kind of see him check out his surroundings, make sure nobody's there ready to pounce on him, because this is a championship match and you don't want to risk that. So Kofi came off very intelligent there. I like that. Everybody gets in their pods. The first two to start out are Randy Orton and Jeff Hardy. So they kick off the match. We get Drew McIntyre is the first pod to be opened. He joins the match, followed by Kofi Kingston a couple of minutes after that. And pretty early on in the match, not very long at all, before everybody even gets entered yet, Kofi Kingston eliminates Randy Orton. Just like that. Orton hops up. He's all pissed. He ends up hitting an RKO on Kofi Kingston and Jeff Hardy after being eliminated and leaves. But here we thought he was going to be canceled out or snuffed out in some way by The Fiend. I thought The Fiend was going to turn up in the pod with him and put him in the claw and then disappear or something. I thought maybe somebody was going to come up through the ring like they really like to do at February pay-per-views, because The Undertaker did it in 96 to Diesel and Big Show did it in 99 to Steve Austin. So I thought that it would be something like that, but we got none of that. Orton just plain lost, and that was it. So, okay, didn't see that coming either. And I think that could have been handled a little bit better. Maybe Alexa Bliss could have came out there and freaked him out or something, but nothing. Here is probably the dumbest part of the match. This cracked me up. So, Omos is out there, of course, backing up AJ, and I love him. He's just great. He's huge and awesome. I'd like to take that guy to go visit an old relative or something and just bring him with me. Hey, this is my friend, and just to freak him out. But anyway, he's out there. He's so big and menacing, 9.5 feet tall, winds up ripping the back panel out of AJ Styles' pod. And AJ's like, yeah, rip it off. And so he just rips it right off, like Kane ripping the cage off the cell back in 97. So he rips it off, and AJ then jumps out of the back of it, and I think the door is open because they're escorting Randy Orton, who just got eliminated, out of the ring. And so then AJ then runs around the front of the cage and then enters the match early. And the announcers are like, oh, what a brilliant strategy for AJ to get in there and, take advantage. I'm like, why is this a brilliant strategy? Why in the world would any wrestler attempt to enter a match like this early? Does the number 30th entrant of the Royal Rumble come out halfway through the match and be like, sup, guys? I'm here now. Just figure I'd come out now. Why not? It's fucking stupid. So I don't know why they even did that. So when I saw that, I'm like, okay, the logic there is stupid, but clearly WWE's setting somebody up to run in and come in through that hole, because why would you do that? We saw the Miz. We're trying to put all the pieces together in our heads. We see the Miz backstage talking to MVP, and Lashley's going to be involved in that. Okay, they ripped off the panel so somebody can come in, scurry in and attack Drew or sabotage him or sneak attack him or whatever, and that must have been why they did it. But that wasn't even why they did it. They just had Omos. So AJ's a dumbass because for some reason he entered this thing way earlier than he should have, and that's not good strategy. I don't know what he was thinking there. That cracked me the fuck up. Who's not making a big fuss and muss over in his pod is Sheamus. Stood there mostly silent the whole time, very focused, kind of staring, into space, kind of trying to psych himself up a bit and get ready to get in there. And he finally does come out last. He winds up eliminating Kofi with the brogue kick. So another kind of underwhelming elimination there. Kofi just got brogue kicked and pinned, and that was the end of that. Shortly after that, we had Drew McIntyre eliminating Jeff Hardy with the Claymore after Hardy hits a swanton onto AJ. Hits AJ with a swanton, immediately gets up and just eats the Claymore, and he's eliminated. AJ Styles, after that, winds up eliminating... AJ Styles, Sheamus, and Drew McIntyre are your final three. I should say that first. So those are your final three in the ring. Sheamus, pretty good sequence here. Sheamus with a bro kick to Drew McIntyre, and right after that, he eats a phenomenal forearm from AJ for the elimination. So AJ eliminates Sheamus with the forearm right after he bro kicks Drew. Seemingly, if he just would have pinned him, he could have been, Drew would have been eliminated there, but Sheamus was eliminated by AJ, leaving AJ and Drew as your final two. So that kind of surprised me a little bit too. I thought for sure that McIntyre would be the one to pin Sheamus. So there's still that victory hanging over their heads. So I kind of still think that Drew was going to get revenge for that Raw pin from last week or whatever, I'm assuming still. And that could happen at Fastlane, could happen on Raw, not sure. A whole bunch of stuff to discuss there. But in the end, we got Drew and AJ as the final two. Drew winds up finish that, I think they've even done before, but AJ goes for the big phenomenal forearm. Drew counters that into a Claymore, looked pretty sick, and pins AJ Styles to win the match and successfully defend the WWE title in the Elimination Chamber. So once that happened, that was it. Then we're all on Twitter. I'm on Twitter. I'm like, okay, what's happening, guys? Is this it? Somebody coming out? Who's coming out? What are they going to do? What are they going to do? So we're just waiting. Drew is celebrating in the ring, and then they start raising the cage. And I'm like, well, they don't raise the cage usually. And like I said earlier, maybe they have done this before, and I just don't remember. I don't know if they did it that first time when Cena lost to Edge or not. I don't think he did, but he might have. So anyway, they start raising up the cage, and they're like, well, something's going to happen. And there comes Lashley out of nowhere. And then it became apparent. And like, okay, so Lashley is going to attack Drew. Miz didn't sell him the briefcase. Lashley's going to attack Drew. So as soon as Lashley started beating up McIntyre, I'm like, fuck, you knew it. Like, he's going to beat up McIntyre so Miz can come out. It was obvious from the very first punch thrown. And I'm like, oh, crap. So Lashley beats the hell out of Drew. He posts him on the outside of the ring, puts him in the hurt lock, just ragdolls him, and just leaves him laying. And then you knew as soon as that was over, here he comes. Miz's music hits. He comes out there with the briefcase. He officially cashes in. No weirdness this time. Morrison didn't do it. There's no asterisk behind this. There's no loophole here that's going to change anything. He actually does cash it in. The match starts. He immediately hits the skull-crushing finale on McIntyre, but he kicks out. But he didn't kick out of the second one. Miz recovers, picks him up, hits him with a second skull-crushing finale, and that is it. Lashley did all the damage there, and Miz is your new WWE champion because of the damage that Lashley did. So as crazy as this is, and as much as I want to, drink alcohol now, I think that the one silver lining here for those of us that are like, holy shit, I can't believe they did what they did. Look at the good news here. You know what the good news here is? They just positioned Lashley for the title match at WrestleMania. That's the bigger story to me. That's something that, even as much as I've been singing the praises of Lashley and I've wanted him to be champion, to get a shot at the title, I had this planned much further down the line for him. I had targeted SummerSlam in my head for like the big Lashley launch. But now they've put him, win, lose, or draw at WrestleMania. He's going to be in a title match now for WrestleMania, all but guaranteed. That deal with MVP, I'm sure, had something to do with that. And I'm sure Lashley now, in some way, shape, or form, will be involved in the championship match at WrestleMania, whether he gets a shot at Miz first and wins the title and then defends against Drew, or Drew wins it back and, he gets in the title match and challenges Drew for the championship, or if Sheamus is still involved here somewhere and we get some sort of a triple threat or a four-way or whatever. But I think the likelihood of Miz dropping the title on the first pay-per-view on the Peacock network is pretty likely. So if that all happens, I guess at the end of the day, like we said earlier, no harm done. But, the fact that I'm sitting here in 2021 talking about the Miz as WWE champion about less than 8 weeks out of WrestleMania, that crazy, man. That's crazy. So, yeah. What do y'all think about this? So, yeah, by the way, Miz wins the WWE title, closes the show, celebrating, big shit-eating grin on his dumb face. And I immediately tweeted out the picture of the Miz girl, who's probably in college now, because that's how I felt. But again, I'm not pissed, like, in any way. I'm like, okay, they're getting crazy. Let them get crazy. I can't imagine. I think it's a waste of time to be pissed. Let's see where it goes. I'm always willing to see where it goes. I don't care who they put the belt on. Even if they put the belt on fucking Tucker, I'm like, all right, let's see where it goes. It might lead to a pile of shit. Who knows? But I will always usually be willing to give stuff a chance. So I think that the bigger story, or as big of a story to me as a fan, maybe not to everybody, maybe not social media or whatever, to me, equally as big of a story as Miz cashing in successfully is Lashley now being positioned as a main eventer, which is where he should have been from the minute he walked his big ass into that company. So that's good. And to me, that's good news in, what was ultimately a lackluster pay-per-view and kind of a frustrating one. Because like I said, both chamber matches ultimately turned out to be pointless. Neither one were necessary. You could have gotten to these destinations without those chambers and just booked other matches. You still could have done Lashley beating the shit out of Drew after a title defense and Miz cashing in. That could still be accomplished. You could do a four-way or something and have Roman face the winner there or something. You didn't need this obnoxious monstrosity with lasers and pods and pyro and music and effects and rockets. I mean, my God, and piñatas and everything that's fucking hanging up in there. So it just wasn't necessary, and that's why I don't like these type of pay-per-views. Now, if you do these chambers and you would have determined opponents, they didn't even have a women's chamber this year. I thought they were going to have one for the women, one for the men. Winners go on to face the other two challengers that didn't get challenged by the Royal Rumble people, is what I thought was going to happen there. It's like they get second crack. Royal Rumble gets first crack at who had to choose who they want, and then chamber opponents have to, take what's left type of thing. Otherwise, this is a pay-per-view that's not necessary on the calendar. And just like Hell in a Cell, I wish it was gone. Just get it the fuck out of there. It's a stupid match. Stupid match. It's War Games on steroids, and War Games was just fine the way it was. So, yeah, I don't like the chamber. I think it's a stupid concept. But anyway, now there's a lot of unknowns. Tomorrow should be very interesting on Raw, 100%. Well, maybe not 100%, but Miz is going to have a lot to say. I was thinking Miz would open the show tomorrow, but you might have a very pissed off Drew McIntyre opening the show. That's possible. Drew might, demand that he opens the show. Even if the Miz is scheduled to open the show, I think Drew should kick his ass and storm out there, and get on the mic and say, Lashley, I want you, or whatever, or, and then kick off your angle however you're going to do it there. And, still don't think it's the last we've heard of Sheamus either. He probably still is going to have something left, some sort of loose end to tie up with Drew, because, these guys are best buds that never really even got their feud going here, or their angle, because now you're running out of time. It's going to be WrestleMania time. So, yeah, I don't know. Give me your ideas. What do you think is going to start or happening starting tomorrow? Let me cruise up here and knock out super chats that I might have missed. I got that one. Okay, back here to Joshua. Appreciate the $5, dude. I wanted to say thank you for being my escape after a rough week here in Texas. Never change and stay awesome. Well, I appreciate that, Joshua. I hope you are all right down there. That is some pretty crazy, gnarly weather for Texas. They're not used to seeing snow. And I can kind of relate. I lived in the Southeast. I lived in North Carolina where it would get cold there in the winters and stuff, but snow was pretty rare. We got some. Probably I would at least see flurries maybe once a year. But only every few years would any actually stay on the ground and stick. And whenever it did, it was a big deal. And down there, you know, they weren't really equipped. They don't have snow plows and shit. And, you know, they're not equipped for that type of stuff for winter storms. So when it happens, it really, really paralyzes you because nobody has snow chains. The roads are not iced or plowed or salted. Or I should say salted, not iced. They are iced. And there's no, you just have to drive at your own risk. People are skidding off the road. Nobody knows how to drive in that type of weather. And then if the power goes out, you're even more fucked. So my thoughts are with all y'all down there in Texas because that is not fun. Ready for that to be over and for them to get their act together and get everybody's power turned back on because that is ridiculous. Jack Curran, appreciate the 5 from you as well. After MVP spoke with The Miz, then Lashley attacked Drew. I thought MVP was going to come down with the briefcase and give it to Lashley to cash in. Yeah, I thought maybe there was going to be something involved there with Lashley getting the briefcase, but again, that wouldn't have made sense. How did Miz get it? There was a match for it, right? I don't know if you can just give it away. I think Adam Pearce or something would have had something to say about that. Now, WWE can make anything possible. But, you know, back in 88, you know, Andre beat Hogan, tried to give it to DiBiase, and they're like, fuck, you can't do that, you know? So they just stripped him or whatever. So if they would have done that, it might have rendered the championship win void or something because it wasn't an official briefcase, an official contract in Lashley's name or whatever. So I don't know if that would have held up in storyline, but WWE's done a lot worse things that made a lot less sense than that. So wouldn't have been surprised. But this might be better. You know, this is Lashley. You know, MVP's a smart guy. MVP's a smart leader of that faction. He's a smart businessman. They had a plan. You know, they're not just YOLOing it. You know, they know what to do. And he went and, you know, has now methodically put this plan in place, talking to The Miz, giving him the title, and now take it from there type of thing. So I kind of like the way that was done, at least from the perspective of MVP and Lashley. You know, business is business, like Lashley said on the Twitters. Hey, Antoine, good to see you, man. Appreciate the $5. So I'm reading a lot that Booby Lashley, is winning the title, and it's Drew versus Lashley at WrestleMania. I'm all for that. I am all for that as well. And yeah, that's what you have to assume here and wonder, is that it's going to be Drew and Lashley for the title, but who's going to be the champion? Does Drew beat Miz for it, or does Lashley beat Miz for it? And if Lashley beats Miz for it, that's a weird-looking match. Heel versus heel. And, you know, even though Miz, you know, he gets a big prize here by being WWE champion, his reward for winning the title now is facing Lashley. I wouldn't be into that either. I'm not even sure if that's a deal that I would make with MVP, you know, because either way, you are going to be screwed. He's going to have to really, how's he going to get out of that match with Lashley? How's he going to survive that? With Morrison? It's going to take a lot more than Morrison to beat Lashley. Lashley could tie his fucking leg behind his head and beat both those guys by himself. So I don't think, you know, just having Morrison out there is enough to instill a lot of confidence in The Miz that he'd be able to retain against Lashley unless he tries to do some chicken shit where he gets disqualified or something, you know. But above that or aside from that, I don't know, you know, what he could do or what he thinks he can do to survive that. But that had to have been part of the business arrangement. Otherwise, Lashley wouldn't waste his time doing that if he wasn't going to get something big out of it as well. So we'll probably find out the terms of that deal tomorrow on Raw. But either way, Lashley versus Drew is good news coming out of this very, very crazy pay-per-view. Stone Cold, appreciate 2 more from you. I think Lashley beats Miz, then beats Drew at Mania. Okay, so you got Lashley going in and winning the title and then successfully defending against Drew. Interesting. I'd be fine with that. I just think WWE's got Drew on their mind as one of their main guys now. So I don't know how Drew doesn't at least touch that title at WrestleMania. I think Drew either needs to go in as WrestleMania as champion or lose the title there. One of those two things. I can't see him just being a random opponent or a random person there with no title and then he loses too. That belt, he needs to be champion at some point WrestleMania night, even if it's for just a few minutes. You know, I think he's got to, just based on the year he's had. Oh, I missed a few more. Let me see. Oh, there we go. Father Adrian, appreciate the 2, man, from you. Thanks for being here. Miz versus Bad Bunny at WrestleMania, champion versus champion. Oh, my God. Champion versus champion. Oh, my God. Let's not do that. Did you see that would be like WrestleMania 6 and then, you know, maybe Bad Bunny beats the Miz and Miz presents him with the title and then they hug? Oh, God. No. I think there's going to be a Miz versus Bad Bunny match, though, but I don't think it's going to be involving the WWE title. Appreciate 5 from you, Devlin. Husband, what's going on? Time for Money in the Bank concept to go away for a while. Maybe. I tolerate the Money in the Bank. I want all concepts to go away for a while. But the Money in the Bank is one that can kind of be exciting when done right. I've had a couple of duds in the last few years, but sometimes they can work. I definitely want to get rid of Hell in a Cell and Elimination Chamber. I know that. But if they did get rid of Money in the Bank, I'd be down with replacing that with King of the Ring. Miss King of the Ring. Yeah, it's funny. When Morrison came back, he almost came back knowing that he's not going to do anything. You know, Morrison is not going to be probably pushed towards an Intercontinental title or a U.S. title. They put him with The Miz, and he's literally done nothing there. But, you know, again, Morrison deserves credit, too. He was in the WWE for a while, got his start there, the Tough Enough deal and the whole deal. And then he went and did other things, and he had success. Lucha Underground and TNA and Impact and all that stuff. He was around and he got out of WWE for a long period of time and made money doing so. Now he's come back there. Maybe he's content. You know, maybe he's content with setting himself up financially. We heard him in that one Miz TV segment where he said he invested in Ethereum. You know, so maybe he's a guy that's just cool with just setting up his life and making sure that life after wrestling is very comfortable for him. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. So if that's what he's doing, he's just kind of saying, all right, they're probably creatively not going to use me in any sort of way, but they're going to pay the shit out of me. That might be worth it to someone like him who has been able to spread his creative wings for the past 8 or 9 years, doing other stuff, working independence and things like that. So, you always have to factor in that, sometimes you just have to, have that honest moment with yourself. I'm probably not going to main event WrestleMania, but, at least I'm in the system, at least I'm getting paid. And, the future is, it can be scary. So somebody doing that for themselves is not that crazy. Who won, Yes or Roman? I don't even know what that means, but Roman did win. Oh, wow. So Damian Parker's got Lashley winning tomorrow. Okay. Lashley picking up the win tomorrow night. I'd be cool with that. I love Lashley. I fucking love Lashley so much. I don't know why they brought back Fastlane either. I cannot stand the fact that there's 2, let alone one pay-per-view in between the Rumble and WrestleMania. I suppose 1 is okay, but 2 really pisses me off. There is no reason for Fastlane to be there at all. Yeah, anything, all those type of suggestions are great. Like JJ is saying, maybe alternate Money in the Bank and King of the Ring every year. Maybe even have a Queen of the Ring too. You could do semifinals and finals on that pay-per-view. Like, I'd be cool with that too. Just saying something like that complex is something WWE won't do. It sounds great to us. Yeah, bring back the King of the Ring every now and then. But at WWE, I think they will do a Queen of the Ring. But like every time they do that, they just do it on Raw and shit. And I just hate that. It's like the Slammies now. So I'd like to see them take the King of the Ring seriously again and maybe make it an 8-man or an 8-woman tournament. That would be a cool back-to-back or, one fun weekend. Maybe do that in June. Do a Saturday and Sunday night show. Queen of the Ring Saturday, King of the Ring Sunday. 8-wrestler tournament for each one. Maybe an additional match on there. Maybe your Yoko and Hogan match on there somewhere. That would be fun. Bring back the old logo and the old music. Oh, I'd love that. I would love that. Absolutely love that. Victor Colon, good to see you, man. Appreciate the $2 from you. Do you think Bunny could be a ref at WrestleMania like Tyson? I would normally say no, but now that Miz is WWE champion, it is possible because all these scenarios we've been talking about ever since we've been up here is that of Miz losing the title before WrestleMania. I suppose that's not a guarantee. Fucker could go in there as champion. And if he did, Bad Bunny would be involved. They're not letting that go. Bad Bunny slapped the shit out of him tonight on the pay-per-view. So that issue isn't over. And if Bad Bunny, and we mentioned that in the beginning, if Bad Bunny is like that Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson figure at WrestleMania, that is possible. He's definitely going to be the big celebrity personality that's going to be present for that this year. So, yeah, I still hope that Miz drops the title and whatever he does with Bad Bunny just involves some other kind of a match. And like Damian Priest has got to be involved in that. Priest and Bunny, Miz and Morrison feels very possible. But Miz is champ now. But like I said earlier, too, another thing they might be doing with the cross promotion with Bad Bunny is now that if the Miz is champion, they can get a little bit of build of Miz. If they have Miz planned to drop the belt between now and Mania, maybe at Fastlane, you got some opportunity now to get some promotion done with Bad Bunny and the WWE champion that you can play on other, networks and, cross promotion with Bad Bunny and all of that. He's now, in a feud with the champion. Just might help out their promotional cross promotion situation better. I don't know. So they're going to have a little bit of time for that, to where you're going to have both guys holding championships and having promos with each other, because we all know that Bad Bunny is the 24/7 champion. I think Miz will probably get some payback for the bitch slap that he took tonight at Elimination Chamber. And I think maybe he slaps Bad Bunny or something, or he does something to injure Bad Bunny, allowing probably Tozawa or a heel to beat him for the 24/7 title, and then R-Truth will then beat that heel for it, because they probably won't have R-Truth pin Bad Bunny. They might. R-Truth might, like you said, R-Truth might think he's Bugs Bunny and just pin him, so you never know. What's up, Spectre? Appreciate the $5 from you. Good evening, Greg. Just hopped on. What did you think of the show? Underwhelmed with the Miz as champion going into Mania personally. Well, that's what we've been talking about. There's no guarantee that he will be champion at Mania. We do have one pay-per-view between now and then, and it does happen to be the first pay-per-view on the Peacock Network. So maybe they want a big title victory for a babyface on that show as the main event type of thing to set up Mania or set the stage for Mania, and maybe even all these scenarios we're talking about with Bad Bunny costing the Miz the championship at WrestleMania. Maybe Bad Bunny costs the Miz the championship at Fastlane, setting up the Miz and Bad Bunny match at WrestleMania. That seems like the most logical option there, but logic is not always WWE's best friend, so we'll see what they do. But that's what I would do. I would have Bad Bunny, I would have Miz cost Bad Bunny that's 24/7 title, because Bad Bunny slapped him tonight, maybe on Raw tomorrow or the week after. Miz attacks him, trips him, pushes him down, hits him in the head with a fucking potato or something, and he goes down, loses the 24/7 title, and then at the pay-per-view, Miz maybe has to defend. I wouldn't be surprised if Fastlane was maybe a triple threat or something. Maybe he has to defend against both guys in a triple threat. But then, why does Lashley or Drew need Bad Bunny's help to beat the Miz? You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Bad Bunny shouldn't have to cost the Miz the title, because everybody he faces is better than him, or at least stronger than him. So, don't know. A little weirded out, though. I ain't going to lie. Yeah, Mike, I'm with you. I predicted Cesaro to win the Chamber match, but, I was trying to think out loud in my head yesterday on the podcast. I'm like, okay, what is better? What would I prefer is, Cesaro winning the Chamber and then just having his momentum killed by Roman right after that, or them continuing his slow build. Although he did get beat rather handily. I forgot who eliminated Cesaro. I can't remember now. Go back up to my notes. Oh, yeah, Uso. Jey Uso eliminated Cesaro and Kevin Owens. That slamming the arm in the door spot was awesome. Love that. So yeah, y'all's guess is good as mine. Keep hitting me with your fantasy booking scenarios for WrestleMania, because I sure as hell don't have any damn idea now. All I know is it's alcohol time, because the Miz is WWE champion. Got another one coming in from Spectre. Appreciate the $5, dude. I was hoping to see Orton win the title tonight to drop to Bray at Mania, considering the Fiend's gimmick. It's righting old wrongs in Bray's career. Yeah, it definitely would do that, but again, it doesn't. Where does that leave McIntyre? One thing that's not going to happen, based on how WWE's been pushing and treating Drew McIntyre, is that he's going to be like an odd man out of some kind of WrestleMania. I don't see that scenario for him, so that's why I'm not even sure about Lashley beating the Miz, and defending against McIntyre. I think I think McIntyre could still maybe go into Mania as champion. And I think maybe this Miz victory gives them a chance to have him champion for a little while he does some Bad Bunny shit. And then he could take it off of him, and you can do Lashley and Drew at Mania with one of those guys being champion going in. potentially Drew. But then if you do that and Lashley beats him, well, shit. Now you've literally changed that title 4 times since October. That's crazy, you know. But we'll see. I'll give it some thought tonight. I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about tomorrow night during the Raw review because we'll have a lot of questions answered. I'm sure something will be set in place for Fastlane, or at least planted for Fastlane. We do have 4 weeks until that's 4 weeks from today that Fastlane takes place. So if we don't get it tomorrow, we'll get it the following week on Raw. One way or the other, we'll get a few, at least, questions answered for us tomorrow. So tomorrow night's Raw review will be pretty fun. By the way, for those of you who are in here right now, could you do me a favor and smash the like button for me? Since I finally have a decent audience in here, we're kind of in a downswing lately. So it's good to see the audience numbers up, but I need some likes. So hook a brother up. I'd appreciate it. Reading some tweets. Reading some Twitters. Yeah, and they'd be playing hot potato with the title a lot if they were to do that. You know what I mean? They've just changed it a lot. Yeah, Seth, Rollins, and Cesaro looks like they're being penciled in now for WrestleMania. And I think Seth and Kevin Owens did an amazing job last year, even though it was at the PC. And I think Seth and Cesaro will do equally good a job this year. Hoping that Cesaro actually goes over in that, but that would put Seth, dropping a couple big WrestleMania matches in a row after having huge success the year before that, beating Brock Lesnar and everything. So quite the turnaround for Seth. Not a good one either. Damn, Spectre, cracked your phone, smashing the like button. Damn, my bad. You're pretty strong. What's up, Michael? Good to see you. Appreciate the $2 as well. That was a pretty short event, to my surprise. It was extremely short. It caught me off guard. I wasn't even ready. My feet were up. I didn't even turn my lights on. I didn't have my monitors hung up or hooked up yet. I had nothing ready to go or prepped for the podcast at all. And then it was like main event time. I'm like, oh shit, I got to get off my ass and wake up and try to get ready here. It really came up quick. So it took me a good 20-30 minutes after the show to come up here. So I don't know, Victor. One of y'all in the chat will know the answer to that. The last time Asuka defended the Raw Women's title, it hasn't been that long, but it feels like it has been a while. And there was what was weird, you know what else was weird? Did they explain this tonight on the pay-per-view? Because I swear, during the kickoff, Charlie Caruso talked about the Raw Women's title match and that Lacey Evans is not. So she says, who's going to step up and challenge Asuka tonight? Exact words out of Charlie Caruso's mouth. Not only did nobody come out and step up and challenge or replace Lacey Evans, they didn't even mention the fucking match. So what's that shit about? God, this company, how many writers making 6 figures do they have back there that shit sucks this bad? I think Daniel Bryan is probably done. What are they doing with him? I don't think he's done. I think he'll have a decent WrestleMania match. Obviously, he's not going to be against Roman Reigns now, but he won the Elimination Chamber. He beat 6 guys. That's not bad. It's not a bad thing. Yeah, he lost, but he looked good and lost. But losing, beating 6 guys in a steel structure, and then losing to a guy right after that, immediately after that, twice your size and twice your strength, not exactly a burial. But I still think Daniel Bryan has a lot to offer. He's great. He's fun. He doesn't have to be at the top of the card. He's been very entertaining on SmackDown in the role that he's in. Even doing stuff with Gable and Otis has been fun, even though I guess Gable and Otis are heels now. But that's all been fun. He's been doing great. Daniel Bryan's fantastic. He'll be fine. This guy, appreciate the 5. Yeah, and I don't mind in the pandemic era. You're right, MW. We've seen shorter pay-per-views. They haven't been beating us to death for 5 hours and shit during shows. Even SummerSlam, I think, was limited to like 3. So it seems like 3 hours are about as long as it gets right now. Rumble probably went a little longer, and Mania, of course, will. But that's nice. That's the way it used to be back in the day. Back in the day, the pay-per-views weren't even 3 hours. They were 2:45. They had to be off the air on the cable companies at 45 past the hour. There'd be a little grace period there. I think technically they would give you to the top of the hour, but not a minute past that. And that's what happened to WCW at Halloween Havoc when they got shut off that year. But that was the norm. I mean, WrestleManias were 2 hours 45. WrestleMania 12, 13, 14, 15, I was there, 16. And then finally 17, it broke the mold and went an extra hour, if my memory is correct. But yeah, I think all WrestleManias up until WrestleMania 17 were only 3 hours, and they were less than 3 hours. They were 2:45. Well, actually, some of the earlier ones weren't. Mania 3 went longer, if you count the whole thing. But yeah, back in those pay-per-view days, they had to be off the air. I don't know, Ryan, where I put the Thunderdome once Tropicana Field deal is expired. I think that we're getting closer to them being able to entertain the idea of have fans, but we're not quite there yet. So I think the Thunderdome is going to have to continue a bit, maybe into the summer, but I don't know. I'm sure they have a plan in place. I mean, it's they can probably find a smaller arena that the entire Thunderdome will still fit inside of. So I'm not sure. I'm assuming they'll just kind of hang there in Florida until they can get back to normal. Not sure yet. We'll keep our eye on that, though, because they're going to have to figure that out. Spring training is going to be kicking off, or it's probably going on right now for baseball. So opening day's coming up. They're going to have to be out of there. Wyatt Worthington, yes, Miz did win the title. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, and I think, Deshaun, you might be onto something there, unless they do it at Fastlane first. But we're probably going to get a Kevin Owens and Jey Uso match at some point. Doing that at WrestleMania would be pretty good. Jey Uso is fantastic. He had another great outing tonight. I think that's great. And I'm going to call it again. I've been calling this ever since. At some point, Jimmy is going to come back and help Jey Uso win some kind of a big match. I thought that Jimmy was going to come back and help out Roman, but now if Uso is going to or Jey is going to kind of have his own issue with Kevin Owens separately, then they do a match between those two, then yeah, he could turn back up and help out Jey Uso. We'll see. Oh, man, the summer shows at the Manhattan Center, that would be tough. Logistically, that's a pain in the ass building, I think, to do stuff in. I don't know if there's much room for the talent to really spread their rings back there and be there every week. At least with Tropicana Field, they've got that big backstage area. It's been so much easier probably for the talent now to have all that area where they can kind of warm up and get ready. They got a ring set up there where they can work out. And, where when they go to when they go to a different arena every night on the road, they just, they don't have all this infrastructure and stuff, so they just have to get their push-ups done in the hallway or wherever they can find room and stuff. So them being there, if I'm talent, I'm loving it there, because you get there and you can hang out and there's things to do and where everything is and shit like that. So it's probably pretty comfortable for them, it's giving them a little mental break from just the rigors of traveling. I'm sure if I'm WWE talent, yes, I am missing the audience. I am missing that rush and the live audience feeling. There's a big part of me that does miss that. But if I'm a talent, I'm also loving this no traveling and, knowing where the building is and knowing where shit is. And you got, lots of conveniences there with the way this is all currently set up. And it's weird. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but, I'm getting used to the Thunderdome. I mean, it works. I mean, it's yes, fans are better and everything, but a lot of times on Raw reviews and stuff, I'd be bitching about how the fans had no energy and, people were coming out there to a reactionless audience and things like that. So at least with WWE, they can like pipe shit in, which I know sucks sometimes, but a lot of other shows are doing it. How how Ridiculousness sometimes plays MTV shows. But yeah, if you watch that show, they've been filming shows during COVID. They got that big long couch now. They sit far apart and they pipe in the audience noise. You don't know any difference. You can't even tell the difference at all. So WWE doesn't have it quite that synchronized yet, and it's harder. And I think piped in "This Is Awesome" chants are a little bit stupid, but also you are basically. I think there's definitely people, not everybody. There are people within WWE that are probably very happy that they don't have to deal with the fans' bullshit, that they don't have to worry about the fans' sabotage and stuff, because they do. I don't know why I just thought of this, but the funniest thing that the fans have ever done for me as a fan, I still laugh about it whenever I think about it. It was the match with Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins. And I think it was an Iron Man match, right? Or it was a beat the clock. It was something where there was a clock. So then like every time every minute when it kicked down to 10 seconds, they would do the Royal Rumble countdown, and they would even complete it with the sound effect, which just cracked me up. I cannot stop laughing about that. The fans like sabotaging shows and trolling WWE a lot of times is annoying. That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen and cracked me up. So like there probably are some people in WWE that are happy that the headache of dealing with the fans is no longer there. And I can see that because they're a pain in the ass. The fans are a pain in the ass. But at the same time, they also do offer a lot. And there was a couple really big near falls on tonight's show where I would have loved to have 15,000 people in that arena. So times are different, but, you know, my brain and everything is just kind of getting accustomed to the Thunderdome. Then imagine falling asleep in 1995 and then waking up now. You're like, what the fuck is going on? What am I looking at here? Couldn't even imagine like this sort of scenario and everything that we're seeing right now. I couldn't even have been able to come up with this in my head in a million years, you know, years ago when I was just a young little shit watching wrestling, that it would now come to this. Incredible. Oh, the Rays home opener is WrestleMania weekend. All right, they're going to have to be out the door by then. Yeah, they're going to have to be out of there. We'll see. I'm sure they got it figured out. WWE's, they're not dumb, or they are, but, you know, when it comes to this type of stuff, they're not going to be left without a venue. You know, they might be left without creative direction. You know, they might be lacking a lot of things. But one thing they're always going to be able to do is find a place to produce their TV. That's kind of like the number one thing they need to worry about. So. The Miz is the first two-time Grand Slam champion. Damn, Miz. Yeah, he's racking up some title belts, isn't he? Oh, my phone is telling me that the Timberwolves have fired coach Ryan Saunders. Ryan Saunders? Is he any NBA fans out there? He's not. Is he related to Flip by any chance? Maybe. Flip Saunders used to coach the Timberwolves and my Detroit Pistons for a bit. And passed away. Maybe that's his son or something. I didn't know that. Interesting. Oh, sorry, my eyes watering. Spectre, appreciate 2 more from you. Fans won't sabotage if they write good shows. True. That's true. Yeah, that would be cool too, Ryan, if they could find a place that they could rent out for a few months that might allow for some expansion. You know, if they do want to integrate a few fans into the experience and do that a little bit at a time. Apparently there's fans at NXT now because, you know, they're surrounding the ring there, but I was under the assumption that those are like NXT recruits. I didn't know they're letting fans in there because that one fan got all sorts of shit on social media for posting the picture of Kyle O'Reilly's medical episode or whatever happened. And I was like, oh, I was just kind of thinking it was recruits. I had no idea it was actual living, breathing fans. So that would be cool if they found a way to do that and just kind of were ready for it when it did happen, because it's going to be interesting how things do get back to normal once they start to. You know, are they going to just go right back on the road, balls to the wall, just like they used to before, hitting all these cities, or is it going to be a slow type of process? I still think we got to be a good year away from like full blown travel for the wrestlers. But I think we're less than a year away. We're a lot closer to having fans. You know, we saw them at the Super Bowl. We're going to see them at WrestleMania. And I think by, you know, mid-year, late year, we're going to see that. But then next year, who knows, you know, what their plans are. And we talked about it too. You know, this could be a new way of producing TV. I mean, back in the day, WWE used to bust out huge sets of tapings, you know, in Allentown and Poughkeepsie and a lot of these towns that were kind of set up as studios for WWE, and they would just tape shit. So, you know, maybe going back to something like that, and the studio wrestling that you would see, you know, in the NWA and Georgia Championship Wrestling and stuff, they kind of had one venue for that. And since we've seen a humongous decline in ticket sales throughout the years, and live event revenue is not WWE's main source of income anymore, it's these TV deals and shit, this might be something that they could afford to sacrifice, and it might be more cost effective to do tapings in one spot like they're doing now. That's why they showed these record profits this year. So just having everything in one place in Orlando is probably very convenient. So maybe it won't go to something like that, but maybe they might only have a couple of hot spots or a couple of tapings a year, you know, which only gives a certain amount of fans an opportunity to go to the shows. And I wouldn't mind that if they did something, you know, a little like how they did in the Manhattan Center for that short amount of time with Monday Night Raw. If they did something like that for TVs, but then pay-per-views were on the road. Pay-per-views were in a new city, you know, in a big venue where you could possibly now sell those venues out because people don't get to see WWE. They don't have the opportunity to see WWE all the time. When I lived in North Carolina, they were there like 4 or 5 times a year. There was always a chance to go to a show every couple of months. And we've seen now that the product has suffered and things suck now and the ticket sales have just been terrible. So if they decided to go a little bit old school, you know, go back to some studio wrestling or some, you know, some Albany or Allentown or Poughkeepsie tapings like they used to do, and, you know, do that on a more modern scale, and then just take your pay-per-views on the road, I think you would be almost guaranteed sellouts for each and every one of those pay-per-views. And it might not be a bad idea, especially when post-pandemic, it's not like the entire world. Some people will. Some people are already comfortable, but it's going to take a while for the entire world just to be totally comfortable with going out and just doing things like they used to prior to the pandemic. You're going to have people that are still, even if you're allowed to go, are not going to want to go on a cruise, are not going to want to go to a concert or a sporting event or any sort of crowded area for a while until they feel comfortable or, you know, vaccinated or whatever the case. It's not like everybody is going to flock to going back to stuff. You're going to have some holdbacks. People are just going to be extra cautious and shit like that. So ticket sales already sucked before. I can't see them just all of a sudden selling out arenas now. So, you know, doing the pay-per-view thing, I think for the future is something they should think about, and just produce your weekly TV the way you're doing it now, just hopefully, you know, with some actual human fans in there instead of video walls. COVID might have changed the business. You know, it might change WWE's business model a little bit, you know, in terms of how they travel and everything. And I think that would be so good for the talent to not have to travel as much and to break their backs as much. And WWE can structure out the royalties and their payments in some other way. Because I know live events, you know, pay a lot of these wrestlers and stuff. But you know what, WWE? Now your TV deals can pay those wrestlers because you're making an obscene amount of money, and change shit up, I think. Oh yeah, Jay Uso. Yeah, Jay and Jay. Christian's name is Jay too. You know Christian's going to get involved, and I guarantee you that Christian will get his ass kicked by Roman Reigns at some point. Almost guaranteed. But that's another factor into that awesome feud, because we talked about that earlier. You know, Roman and Edge, you add Paul Heyman to that mix. Oh my God, that's going to be some good stuff. But yeah, you're going to get Christian out there at some point, and Roman's going to target him. And I even think that Roman might show his face, or at least Paul Heyman or something, or maybe Jey Uso. Somebody's going to go down to NXT and fuck with Beth. I wouldn't be surprised, because Edge wants to do more there. He wants to work there. He wants to make appearances there. So, you know, if you have Roman show up there, Edge might, you know, go down there as well and cut a promo or something. Who knows? But I'd like to see that. March Madness is planning on having 25% of fans for their tournament. Yeah, that all this started right before March Madness last year, remember? And they were going to go through with it, and then they canceled the entire tournament. Man, we're like a year in now. A year into this nonsense. I didn't see that Transferring Heat podcast. Miz cut a good post-match promo, said he hopes there's thousands of millions of Miz girls crying all over the world tonight. Well, I'm one of them. I'm a crying Miz girl. Oh my God, Miz, you prick. What did he cut that on? Talking Chamber? Is there a post-show or something? Chamber talk? Take the mats out of the chamber. Take the whole chamber out of the pay-per-view. How about that? But yeah, taking the mats out of the chamber, all that's going to do is hurt the talent, and I don't want to do that. Okay, thank you for that, Ryan. Ryan was Flip's son. Okay, figured. I don't know. Didn't know that. I didn't even know that Pat Mahomes was Pat Mahomes' son at first. I remember the first time I saw Pat Mahomes, I was like, I remember a baseball player with that name. And they're like, yeah, Greg, it's his dad, you idiot. And I'm like, oh. So yeah, kind of the same thing there. I had no idea. Well, that's a bummer that things didn't work out for the Saunderses in Minnesota. I really liked Flip. I loved Larry Brown. You know, he took the Pistons to the championship in 2004, but, you know, Flip had Flip did great there, and they had a crazy record. They had the best record in the league when Flip was the coach, but then they lost in the playoffs, I believe, to LeBron. I'll never forget that. I think that was like 07, the playoffs or something like that, and LeBron was in the Palace, and he just lit up the Pistons for like 25 consecutive points and knocked them out of the playoffs. I was at home watching that game with my best friend, and I was in a lot of pain that day. That sucked. And I was like, oh, yeah, that LeBron kid's pretty good. I know, angry Ms. Girl, wherever she is now, we're thinking about you, and we all made your face tonight. She probably doesn't even watch wrestling anymore. You know why? Because this shit sucks. Totally sucks. Yeah, I have Pat Mahomes baseball cards. One of these days, I need to pull all those things out and send the expensive ones in to get graded. Because I've got the Griffey, upper deck rookies, and I got Frank Thomas's, and I got Barry Bonds and Ricky Henderson's, and everything. McGuire's. I think I got a Jeter rookie in there somewhere. I should send all that shit in one of these days. I still have a lot of baseball cards packed away, and I remember right at the end of my trading, and me being into baseball cards, I think it's right around the time that Pat Mahomes was around. I think I bought my last pack of baseball cards in 1993. That's where I got the Jeter rookie. After that, I was done. Taking out that's an interesting idea. Take out the ring of the Hell in the Cell, but still have the Hell in the Cell, but then you just fight on the floor. Might look kind of interesting. It just looks like you're fighting in jail then. So you see that every day in every penitentiary. I don't know. Oh, transferring heat. That would be lovely. I really, really wanted. I was talking about that prior to the Royal Rumble. I wanted Ripley Charlotte, even if it meant Asuka being the odd woman out, dropping the title, as much as that would pain me to see Asuka, who was so awesome, lose the belt. If it would give me Rhea and Charlotte, I'd be in favor of that, especially if Charlotte beat Asuka and then Ripley beat Charlotte, got her win back from last year. So that could still happen. If Rhea debuts, I thought they could do that tonight. Somebody's got to replace Lacey. So, yeah, maybe that's something we get tomorrow. That'd be a big Raw if we got Rhea showing up, beating Asuka, brand new WWE champion in The Miz out there, running his mouth and likely unveiling his plan and his business arrangement with MVP and Bobby Lashley and what all that entails. But, Michael, I have not driven down there. Qualcomm's only a 10-minute drive from me. But, yeah, I know it's demolished, but yeah, that's sad. I've been there a lot. My sister and her husband, before they bought their house, they owned a condo way up on the hill over Qualcomm, and you could just kind of hang out and see everything from their balcony. And I'd been there a couple of times for baseball games, for football games. And yeah, that was a landmark. A couple of Super Bowls took place there. Bad part of town, though. It wasn't anywhere near downtown, and just a strange location for it. So it's a sad day here in San Diego that Qualcomm is gone. My Silver Dome back home in Detroit, home of WrestleMania 3, was also recently demolished in the past few years, and so was the Palace of Auburn Hills, where I just talked about that LeBron game, has also been demolished in the past couple of years. I think last year, maybe the year before. But all that's kind of new. And now no more Qualcomm. We got no football team down here. My God. Okay, yeah, Psychotic Savage, you're living up to your name. Add some weapons to the cell. Yeah, you could tie them up on the bars like machetes and chainsaws and shit. Why not? KO might jump off the pirate ship. Well, is that what he said when they did the WWE WrestleMania special last year? Was he talking about jumping off the ship and that made him jump off the sign instead? Or did he, I think the way he put it was like he looked at the sign, he's like, oh, I want to jump off that or something. But yeah, somebody needs to jump off the WrestleMania pirate ship or logo, depending on what's going on and how they set up the set at WrestleMania. Another person speaking of jumping off shit, somebody not to discredit or discount for WrestleMania is Shane McMahon. We talked about a little bit about him yesterday, and how it looked like they might have planted some sort of a seed for Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania a couple of weeks ago on Raw. That doesn't appear to be the case now, but since Shane McMahon has turned back up on TV you got to wonder if eventually he will be booked for some sort of a WrestleMania match. Kind of hope not, but we'll see. Hell in the Cell happening in the woods. Okay, why not? Yeah, Kenny Omega apparently is a WWE champion, according to Jim Ross. That was hilarious. Poor JR. It ain't his fault. It ain't his fault at all. Shane is wrestling Braun Strowman. That's right. We got to think about Braun Strowman, too. He's all pissed off because of not being included in shit. And last week on Raw, he was giving all sorts of shit to Adam Pearce, who then passed the buck, kind of threw Shane under the bus a little bit. And now Braun's going to be targeting him. But I kind of thought Braun, we talked about this yesterday, that maybe he would be the likely opponent for McIntyre at WrestleMania. But now I don't see where he fits into that at all. They might do something with Braun after that, but then again, Braun just can't do nothing at WrestleMania. He's Braun Strowman. So Braun Strowman versus Shane McMahon would be a weird match, though, wouldn't it? Is that a match Shane wants? Why would he do that? God, who's Shane worked with? He's worked with, did he work with Miz, AJ, and Undertaker? Or who else? He's worked with a lot of guys in recent years. Yeah, I don't know how much longer. Well, I mean, having an authority figure sometimes can be overdone. I don't mind the way they're doing it now because I like Scrap Iron, and I think he does an okay job, and we don't need somebody that's really that much in your face all the time like some other authority figures have been. Pierce seems to be there when necessary, not all the time, 3 segments a show, making it all about them, like Stephanie and Triple H and a lot of GMs in the past have. For what they're doing right now, I'm okay with it. They do have some sort of an authority figure there to try to keep the threads together, and that's really all I ask for. And then when you want a more obnoxious type of personality doing that, you can go to that. But I think we've seen so much of that in recent years. The Adam Pearce stuff, at least in my opinion, is kind of a nice break, from that shit, because it was so much of it. So I'm cool with Pierce doing what he's doing. I got no issues there. Now, we got some Brock Lesnar call outs here. I've seen a couple of those tonight. Yeah, Shane and Braun would be super weird. Yeah, and Pierce's presence is increasing and all of that, so he's around. I'm not feeling Brock. I thought all along Brock definitely would be. I mean, WWE, especially with rolling over to the Peacock platform now, I thought the WWE would want to stack WrestleMania as unbelievably big as they possibly can with as much star power. Reach out to everybody. They got the money. Brock, give me a number. What's it going to take to get you here? That kind of thing. I thought they would just call and reach out to everybody. Get Brock there. Get Cena there. Try to get Rock to do something, even if it's a video via satellite appearance or something like that. I thought that they were really going to want to put their best foot forward and show the Peacock audience what they're all about. So I suppose there's still time to bring Brock Lesnar back. He's not a guy that likes to hang around for a long time, so he's going to come in and do a WrestleMania match. There's still a little bit of time to get him here. He's still got 2 months virtually, so he could show up at the last minute. He could show up the night after Fastlane in a month from tomorrow, and then build something for WrestleMania. But, then again, I think your title match is already set. I think it's going to be McIntyre and Lashley with maybe The Miz involved or not. You still got Sheamus to think about. I don't feel a scenario or see a scenario where Brock Lesnar really fits in unless he comes in and just works with somebody else. Shane McMahon versus Adam Pearce, that would be a weird one too. Good mic work versus Ellsworth, last man standing match. Oh, I got him beat. That dude can't even fold towels. Sonya being a good GM in the future would be awesome. Oh, I should mention her, by the way. On the kickoff show, girlfriend laid down the law to the Street Profits. She was on the kickoff wearing her little suit and everything. And she's talking to the panel, and then the Street Profits show up, and they're all getting in her face and like, hey, what do we got to do to get a title shot? And, we held the title for this many days or whatever. And she's like, and this is where you choose to approach me about this? I've been backstage all fucking day. I got an office back there. And you're bebopping your dumbasses up here to ask me for a title shot. I was actually considering giving you guys one. But since you're being such ass bags, I don't want you anywhere. And she kind of just laid down the law. And I was like, she should check that solo cup, check what's in that drink. They might both be fired. I got a kick out of that. And they were trying to apologize and stuff. It was a pretty funny segment. So Sonya, could maybe work well in that role. She put the Street Profits in their place. That kind of cracked me up actually a little bit. But I'd be fine with that. I like Sonya Deville. No, Ryan, I have not watched that, but I saw a couple of clips today. I believe that was released today, right? Sasha Banks on the Broken Skull Sessions. That's going to be a great listen. I'll probably check that out. I probably won't check that out tonight. It'll probably be this week. But I am surprised they kind of did her so close to Bayley. Two like that, even though they're two completely different people with completely different stories, they probably are going to have some similar stories because they are in the same class and the same, same era and stuff like that. And they have so much history together and shit. So I kind of thought that maybe you spread those out a little bit and you do somebody else in between. I'm still dying to see Randy Orton on Stone Cold Sessions. That's going to be great, or Broken Skull Sessions. And I did see that they have released, you guys have to tell me, is it a 24 or is it an Untold? Some sort of doc coming out on Big E, and that's going to be a really good one as well. So good content is always flowing into the WWE network. That never stops. And apparently it is going to go a little bit beyond. I think the network might still remain or be phased out because they were tonight on Elimination Chamber advertising Fastlane available on Peacock and WWE Network. I haven't looked into it, but I also haven't received any sort of information or instructions from WWE on how to proceed with transferring over to the Peacock Network and make my subscription there valid there. I don't know how to do that yet, but then again, I haven't really looked into it. If I did, I'd probably figure it out. But those instructions might be coming later on, and they might still allow the network to be available for a little while after the Peacock launch just to get everybody, organized and stuff. And I like that. So I guess next month, there is we can watch Fastlane on the network, apparently. I thought that tonight was going to be the last pay-per-view on the network ever after 7 years. But we get one more. And maybe WrestleMania will be the same way, too. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they do. I don't know the details of that. Do you guys? Do they shut the network off completely? And it just goes away and it's all Peacock, or does network hang around a little bit? Don't know. I don't know about computer stuff. It's hard to understand. Apologize for all caps. That's all right, Donald. I won't ban you. Oh, yeah, Maka. I think Rollins and Cesaro are headed for a feud. That's awesome. At the end of the day, at least the matches are going to be good. I'm not sure how good the promos and stuff would be in a situation like that because Seth's a pain in the ass and Cesaro is good, but even the heated, passionate promo he had on Talking Smack the other night or last week or whatever, as good as it was, it's hard to really get behind his words. He does there is just some sort of little part missing there. I don't know what it is, but I don't care. Promo's not the most important thing to me. Wrestling is. If promos mattered to me, then Bret Hart wouldn't be my favorite wrestler. So I think Cesaro is more than capable and awesome, and he should have some big matches and some big victories, and hopefully have a good 2021. Put some gold around that dude's waist, man. What the F? Come on, WWE. Okay, so WrestleMania will be exclusively on Peacock. Thank you for that, Ryan. Victor Colon, appreciate the $5. WWE Network on Peacock is only for USA. WWE Network will still be available outside the USA. Yes, I did know that. That's just for us. I think it's Canada too. Canada and the USA. Yeah, Trey thinks The Miz as champion will be way more entertaining. At least we don't know what the hell is going to happen now. There really is a legitimate reason to tune into Raw tomorrow. They probably will receive a rating spike. Miz as champion for a long extended period of time is not going to do the ratings any favors at all. But I think just out of pure curiosity and anger, a lot of fans will tune in tomorrow at least to see what the hell that little bitch is going to do with his title. We'll have to see. Yeah, Big E Universal title push could be coming this summer for him. I'd be more than happy with that. No problemo. No arguments here. Well, that's good to know. Anyway. All right, we're probably going to be wrapping things up here. I've got all of my notes made. I didn't catch any significant wrestling news today, aside from some of the changes to the Elimination Chamber card itself. Nothing else too crazy going around right now. And no word on what exactly is keeping Keith Lee out of the card tonight. Hopefully he's all right either way. Kind of scrolling through some other notes here just to see if I missed anything. Yeah, not really. No, I'm not going to fight Salamanca. Salamanca's awesome. We're friends. I've met him. He's always been good to me. No reason to smack him around. And I don't want to be smacked around. I don't like being smacked. Hurts. Fucking hurts, man. Yeah, I probably will. Probably JJ next month. I'll probably watch Fastlane on Peacock just to get used to it. I got to get that whole shit signed up and all that. So I'll be figuring out how to do that this month. And I got 4 weeks. 4 weeks to figure it out. Stephen Harris, no, if you're probably just joining us. If you were just joining in, no, I'm not upset that Lashley lost his title for a couple of reasons. Number one, he didn't get pinned. He was protected, and he's been protected now pretty, strongly for the past, I'd say 7-8 months. And now he's being positioned for a title match at WrestleMania, and that is good news. So of all the shit coming out of the bad news with The Miz winning the title, there's a silver lining there. Bobby Lashley is now being positioned as a main eventer, which is where he should have been all along, and which would explain a lot is WWE all of a sudden, instead of putting him in obstacle courses and silly ass shit with Sami Zayn, they're actually making him a badass, and now we're starting to see why. So bummed out that he doesn't have that title around his waist anymore, but I think in the end it could lead to more things for him, because I'm a big Bobby Lashley fan, and if they do have some future plans for Brock Lesnar, we've all wanted like a Lesnar and Lashley match, right? If Brock is going to stay absent for this WrestleMania season, put over Lashley now and build those two for SummerSlam, So there's options there with Lashley and his future. Thank you for that, Ryan. Biggie 24 is going to be next Sunday. That I cannot wait to see. And yeah, there will be a live stream for Mania. I'll probably do what I did last year. I think maybe night 1, I'll live react. And then night 2, I will watch it and then come up with a big full review of both nights. I think that's what I did last year. Worked out pretty well. And we'll probably do that this year as well. Marcus, appreciate 5 more from you. Quick thoughts. Sasha Austin interview. I get the impression she lays out a lot of her matches, and it seems like she sees herself businesswoman now. Well, yeah, that's when you do. I mean, when you get to that point and you start really making money, you start setting yourself up, financially, creating an LLC and things like that and making your riches richer. So yeah, she probably is. I didn't realize, I guess, she's not a call it in the ring person. Obviously, she lays out a lot of her matches, which is nothing wrong with that. Whatever works the best for you is what you should do. There's no right or wrong way. Worst wrestler, Miz or Greg Gagne? Let's go Greg on that. I was never a fan of Greg. Thought he offered nothing. Greg, he was smooth. He was smooth. He had, let me see. I'm trying to think of a move he did real well. He did an arm drag real well. Go watch Greg Gagne's arm drags. Smooth as butter. It's about the only thing he did well. Otherwise, he had the charisma of a bowl of oatmeal and the physique of a bag of rice. So, yeah. But other than that, he's got great arm drags. Superb arm drags. His fellow high flyer compatriot, Jim Brunzell, had probably the best drop kick. One of them, anyway. Up there with maybe a Bob Holly, some of the best ever. Doug Furnace, great drop kick. I don't know, Mike Witt. We might not see The Fiend tomorrow. They might hold off on that until after Fastlane. I think tomorrow there's going to be a lot of stuff focused around The Miz and Lashley and Drew and all that shit that's going on there. So The Fiend is going to be kind of like a show closing thing, I think. And if you got all this other stuff going on with those guys, that's going to kind of be the top story, I suppose, on Raw. And you'd be piling too much on to one episode. where I think you can save the Fiend. So I'm voting no on the Fiend, especially with Randy Orton. You know, he was eliminated in a very unremarkable way. He was just eliminated like by Kofi, and that's it. No nothing, no weirdness, no flashing lights, no nothing like that coming from Alexa Bliss or the Fiend. So I say you hold off on that and you do the Fiend coming back later on. Christian, I don't really listen to any podcasts right now. I haven't had time to. My life is busy. I got my own YouTube channel to worry about. So I check out, you know, some of my other fellow YouTubers from time to time. I just recently went to Arizona this past week and did a long drive, and we knocked out a couple of Something to Wrestles. I haven't listened to them in probably well over a year, maybe even 2, and listened to Pat Patterson episodes, which were really good. So I wish I could listen to more. My commute to work isn't even very far, so sometimes I try to knock out some listening in the car, but, you know, it's hard to do these days. Appreciate the $2, Marcus. What's your favorite stipulation match? I don't know. I like I Quit matches if they're done right, but my biggest issue with I Quit matches is you take away the drama of the near falls, you know, when you can't have that 1-2 and kick out type of thing. So submission matches aren't always the best. They're better, you know, only when you have the real good ones like WrestleMania 13. But they can be good. Last Man Standing is the same thing. Like it, but for the same reasons I Quit, not my favorite. I don't even know if I have a favorite. Cage, Iron Man, No DQ, Triple Threat, Fatal 4-Way, 6-pack, Chamber. We're talking about stipulation, though. Stipulation match and gimmick match, I guess, are 2 different things, right? So maybe a stip match. I don't know. Greg got the Gagne sleeper. So what? This sleeper sucked. I guess I'm going to agree with that. Best stipulation is the Iron Man match because you can do them in a dramatic way. And you can still have kickouts and things like that, and you can have multiple falls. So, yeah, never really thought about it. Never thought in my head that the Iron Man match was my favorite stipulation, but I guess it probably would be. I don't require a lot. I don't need a lot of stipulations and stuff anyway. So, Kennel from Hell, I saw that live. I was in the audience. I was 50 feet away from that fucking cage and those dogs shitting on the floor. I remember it well. Kiss My Foot match. My God, 1995. What a year. Yeah, War Games was one of my favorites from back in the day. Have I done a watch-along for No Way Out 2001? No, I haven't done that. Maybe do that one year or soon. But every watch-along I'm going to do now between WrestleMania are going to be WrestleMania watch-alongs. By the way, in case you didn't know, we got one coming up next Sunday, 1 week from tonight, WrestleMania 17. It's the 20-year anniversary of WrestleMania 17. So we're going to watch that together next Sunday. I'll probably come up live around 8 o'clock Eastern time. So mark your calendars. And then after that Sunday, we've got Revolution. So I'll be up here for an AEW Revolution after that. And then the Sunday after that will be another watch along. Sunday after that will be Fastlane. Sunday after that, watch along until we get to WrestleMania. So we're going to be doing watch along Sundays between now and WrestleMania. It's going to be fun. You will see me every Saturday and every Sunday and every Monday. I think I'm going to do 3-day streaming weekends every week between now and WrestleMania. That's a lot of me. And then my week I need to myself so I can get my other work done and my other job and shit like that. So that's the plan. WrestleMania 4 review. I've got so many personal memories of that, John. I would love to review WrestleMania 4. Might be a fun one to watch along too. That way I can just kind of talk about my memories. I watched that in a very weird environment. That was technically the first pay-per-view I ever watched on a television because I was at 3 and I didn't get the first Survivor Series in 87. Because I was in the emergency room all night and I wasn't able to order the show. So WrestleMania 4 was the first show I watched, and I was living in rural North Carolina at the time, and my family had only been living there for about 7 or 8 months. We had moved down from Michigan, and where we lived was built right on top of the house was just built. They fucking hammered the last nail in and we moved in. So, and it was built right on top of a tobacco farm, and it was still just all busted and country ass and shit. Really nice house, just, out in middle of nowhere. So there was no cable hookups yet. Like, it was coming, but they hadn't put it in the neighborhood and, offered it to all the houses. So there was no cable for like the first few months we lived there. But my parents, my dad had his new job and he actually met a friend. He met a friend and they had a house and they invited my parents over to kind of drink and party with them. And they had cable. So they brought me along. They ordered me the WrestleMania pay-per-view, stuck me in the den in front of the TV, and I watched the entire WrestleMania 4 pay-per-view in there by myself while my parents just hung out and drank and played poker and had fun with their friends, just like I would be doing if I was in my 30s. So that was a fun memory for me, WrestleMania 4. I kept going back into the other room to like give them updates, like they gave a shit. I'm like, Mom, Greg Valentine beat Steamboat. And she's like, yeah, great. So, although she was present for the ending and she was very happy because she did like Miss Elizabeth. I love that final match. WrestleMania 24 would be fun to review, or at least watch along. That might be a good watch along one. Not sure how many reviews I'm going to get in this year, just because I want to just try to do content, and this channel has really kind of taken the turn into a mostly live streaming type of channel now, which is kind of where my bread is buttered anyway. So we might just do a lot of watch alongs, just kind of hangouts this year, but I will at least try to bust out one review. I think I can do that, but life's busy, Anyway. All right, cool. I think that's going to do it for me. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, guys, because I want to have some dinner and chill out for the rest of the night. You guys take care. Thanks for hanging out tonight. Leave me all your other thoughts if you're watching this on demand after the fact. Leave me your thoughts on the pay-per-view down in the description or in the comments below. And I will be back up here tomorrow night, immediately following Raw. There should be a lot to talk about tomorrow. Should be very interesting. So join us here live on YouTube after Raw. We'll try to find out what kind of direction they're going in for Fastlane and ultimately WrestleMania with our new WWE Champion, The Miz. Let me just say that one more time out loud. The new WWE Champion, The Miz. Yeah, I'm not dreaming. I haven't woke up yet. I think it really happened, y'all. Anyway, I'm going to sign off and hopefully I'll wake up from this nightmare. You guys take care. Have a good night. I'll catch you tomorrow.